Hello there, welcome to my YouTube channel Saint Nightingale. In this tutorial video, I'm going to be showing you how to sew this off-shoulder pleated ball dress. Let's go. So as usual, like I always do, I would label the edges of my brown paper and take a 1 inch on the up and on the left side. I went further to mark the shoulder measurements. The shoulder measurement for this design is 7 inches. And I secured that area, and then I also marked the starting point. The starting point I'm using is 8 inches, and I've marked that on the brown paper. I've also secured the armhole measurement as well as the round neck measurement, just so that I can have the complete bodice. So let's proceed. The next thing I'll be doing is to secure the other measurements, like the under bust measurement, the nipple to nipple measurement, the shoulder to nipple measurement, and shoulder to the waistline measurement. So the first measurement I placed here is the under bust measurement. Thereafter I went on to secure the waistline or the half length measurement, and that's what you have there. Then I went in to mark the shoulder to nipple measurement, which is 10 inches, and I marked the straight line. Then I went upwards by 1 inch, remember from the shoulder downwards to be 7 inches, and created a fresh starting point, taking out the first one that I had marked, which was 8 inches, and then cancelled that. Then I went on to mark the nipple to nipple measurement, which is 3.5 inches, drew a straight line, and there you have it. Then I went on to plot my bustier curve. Took out 1 inch on the left and 1.5 inch on the right on the under bust, same as the start points, the new start points. Right, and then I drew out that curve with my curve ruler, and then connected that downwards towards the waistline. After doing this, I secured the new armhole. I'm going by or rather adding 2.5 inches away from the initial armhole that you can see there, which would now be 7 plus 2.5, which will give us 9.5 inches, and from that other part to that point is 9.5 inches. So after doing that, I decided to plot my my first cup. If you've watched my other tutorial videos on how to cut a corset, this is what you do. You secure this curve by going in by dividing the initial where you have the initial armhole curve. You divide it into 2 and then plot your curve. And for the other side, I went in by half an inch and then plotted my curve to go upwards from that under bust upwards. So where it's stopping is 1.5 inches away from the start line on the left side of the pattern. So after doing this, I went on now to go up again. I went up again by 6 inches, or rather by 1 inches, shoulder downwards to be 6 inches from the midpoint of the nipple to nipple. But from that part, you'll see me taking my marker now and doing like a freehand sketch towards the new line that I have, which is 6 inches from the shoulder upwards, and then there you have it. And that's because I want my curve or I want the corset area to be elevated. I'm working with a teenager, and the person is not as busty as a full-grown adult, which is why I went up again by another 1 inch, shoulder downwards 6 inches, and then created that curve that you just saw now. So I used my curve ruler again to connect the dots with the new start point, just for that cup area, but then the remaining part remains the same. Shoulder downwards on the other part will still remain 7 inches. So we're done now. I'm just going to shade off the area that is not going to be useful again for this pattern, and then we'll proceed to other things. But before shading off, I went on to get my bust measurement. The bust measurement for this person is 32 inches. So I divided this into 4, which will give me 8 inches. 8 plus the 2 inches, 2.5 inches rather, that taken from there will give me 10.5 inches. And I added 1.5 inches sewing allowance, and I did the same for the waist measurement. The waist measurement for this person is 28 inches. Divided by 4 will give me 7 inches. 7 plus 2.5 that I've taken from that allowance will give me 9.5 inches. I added 1.5 inches sewing allowance and secured the waistline, and that's what I'm doing now. So done with the pattern, I'll just shade off the area that I will not be working with, and furthermore mark the area that I'll be working with. So I have my F1, F2 for the cup area, 1, 2, 3 for the parts that I cut. Another thing to mention is I created an extra opening. I just went inwards from the measurement for the bust area, 3.5 inches inwards, and on the waistline as well, and drew that straight line. So now let's cut the back bodice. So for the back bodice, I secured my lines, the lines that I'll be working with, the start point, the under bust point, the waistline. I'm going to drop a link upwards or somewhere here, so you can click to watch my other videos for how you can cut a corset for the front bodice and the back bodice if you want a more detailed explanation. What this video will be focusing on basically is how to cut that ball area of the dress. But let's just proceed. So I'm going to proceed to secure the lines that I'll be working with to create my, or to work out my back bodice, and that's what I'm doing now. So I've adjusted my camera so you can see what I'm doing. So from that start line on the right side, I went in by 3.5 inches, which is my nipple to nipple measurement, which will form the back dart. But so that we can have a complete bodice, I went further to just mark the neck area, the shoulder area, and the armhole area, so you can see this. On this back bodice, I'm only going to be working with the starting point and the waistline, which is very important for the pattern that I want to create. So like I mentioned, the back measurement is 7 inches. I went in by 7 inches from the beginning downwards, as you can see in this video, and just marked the straight line, and then also created my armhole and the shoulder slope. So like I did in front, on the left side now of what you're seeing, I went in by 1.5, and on the right side I went in by 1 inch and connected the line from the start line to meet the marking that I've done downwards, which will form my dart line. Then I went on to secure my bust measurement, adding 2.5 inches to the initial bust measurement like I did in the front part, and also 1.5 inches sewing allowance like I did, and also what I did to include the last opening by going 3.5 inches inwards to create that line that you'll see shortly. Also for the zipper area, because this is a corset and I'll be using corset rings, I went in by 1.5 inches inwards and just connected the line downwards, as you can see in this video. Shaded the part that I won't be needing and the parts that I'll be needing, B1 and my B2. So I'm going to now create my B3, which is the last opening that I've done on the front part. Remember, in the front part I had labels like 1, 2, 3, but here I'm going to be having B1, B2 and B3. So I went in by 3 inches there, I went in by 3 inches there as well, and then used my ruler to connect the lines, and I'll just take my scissors now and trim out all the parts that I'll be needing. Alright, so after cutting, I placed this pattern on the fabric and then cut out this on the fabric. For what you can see now, I've added the wording on the cup area. I've also added my air stay to the remaining part of the fabric, and for the lining I've used my gum stay, the medium texture, to line the lining. The lining I used is bridal satin. Also, one thing to note is when placing the pattern, the remaining part that I labeled the remaining part I labeled 1 to 3, and the parts that I labeled B1, B2 and B3, when cutting the waistline area, you add 1 inch to what you're cutting, so that when you're sewing in the pleated ball area, it will be easy for you to work with. I'll show you what I mean by that, but make sure that you add, instead of the ½ an inch sewing allowance downwards and upwards, the upward part will be ½ an inch sewing allowance, but in the downward part will be 1 inch sewing allowance, because you're going to be working your ball on that space. That 1 inch space is where you'll be working your ball. Also, another thing to note is when you're placing your pattern on the fabric, ensure to have ½ an inch sewing allowance across all the parts that you'll be joining, which is where you'll be joining. So when you join finally on the main fabric, your measurements are still intact and accurate. Let me repeat again. When you're joining or rather when you're cutting the pattern on the fabric now that you'll be working with, both for the lining and for the material, make sure that you leave half an inch sewing allowance across the pattern. Then for the part that I labeled 1, 2, 3 for the front bodies, and B1, B2 and B3 for the back bodies, for the sewing allowance for the waist area, make sure you leave 1 inch sewing allowance. Remember, when you usually do your allowance, upwards you leave half an inch, downwards you leave half an inch, but for the purpose of this ball gown, upwards you leave half an inch sewing allowance, downwards you leave rather 1 inch sewing allowance. So let's proceed to joining the front bodies. So we've joined all the parts together for the front bodies and the back bodies. Now let's add our cup. Let's join the cup. See how I place the cup into that place. I don't need to notch this because the person is not a busty person, so I don't really need to define a full breast or something, or full bust area. I'm just working with the cup as it is. So I'm sewing it down into my cup for the front part of the corset. I'm just doing that, and I slowed this process down so you can see how I'm sewing this into the cup. I'm also showing you the outcome of this after I'm done. What I took to do right now is to just trim out the excess wording that is showing at the edge of the front parts, F1. Right, the F1 and the F2 part. So I'm doing this now for the second part of the cup slowly so that you can see the outcome. We're done now. Now let's place these cups into this. So the way I join my cup, I start by matching the cup line with the remaining part of the bodice so that eventually I have an equal part. So I'm going to first of all sew this after matching this to the end, then flip it over again and sew it back to the midpoint of the cup so that when the cup sits in that hole, it sits properly. It's not shifting unnecessarily, and it's very accurate, just so that I can have my lines aligning properly when I'm done. So it's aligning, it's sitting well. I'm not going to flip over, trace it to where it stops, and then sew on the machine. I'm going to do this for the left and for the right side. So first cup is ready. I'm just going to speed up the second part now, since it's the same thing I did on that part on the right side, I'm doing on the left side. Alright, so this is our cup sitting pretty, aligning properly with the lines. I'm now going to, because I'm doing an inner closing, I'm going to join the front part and the back part together. I'm going to do the same for the lining area before I join everything finally. It's very easy. Just from the center point of the fabric, measure your bust measurement and take out the excess on the sides, and you're good to go. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm done with the front part. I'm going to now connect the pattern for the lining. It's the same thing I did for the front part that I'm doing for the lining, just to join the cups to sit properly. You'll ask me why am I not doing it the same I'm doing the front, and that's because this part is very firm and it just aligns, unlike the front part that has very a lot of elements like the cup sitting into the the bra cup sitting into the cup area. There's the potential of it shifting or the wording shifting, so that's why I went in by center to center first, but this part is just firm and everything is accurate. So the next thing I did was to measure my boning stick. I used the regiline boning for this, so that I can have my invisible boning technique secured for this pattern. Burn the edges of the boning stick and then sewed. Like I said in my other tutorial videos, there's a thin line on this boning stick, and that's the line you should follow, not sew on the center part. So I went in to sew on the thin line across all the parts of the lining. I started this from point A to point B and finished this up. So we're done now. We're just going to connect the lining now with the main fabric and join together. So starting from the upwards part, I sewed following the lines, and then I just joined the lining with the main fabric. So now on the ironing board, I went on to mark my 1 inch, which is where I'll be sewing on. I'll go to the machine now and then sew this. So I'm sewing on that line that I shown you just now, where I used my chalk to mark. It means that when I'm sewing in the ball area for this dress, I will not pass that line. I would ensure that I sew directly on that line, because remaining parts of that area I'm going to be working on it. Now we're back to the ball side. So let me quickly mention, for the ball area, I'm going to be working with the main fabric, the soft lining, which we call ABBA lining here, the hard lining, which is bridal satin, and the hard net. Let's go. So first of all, the full length of this dress is 43 inches, right? 43 minus the half length measurement, which is 14 inches, will give me 29 inches. For that 29 inches for the ball area, I'd added 4 inches sewing allowance. So the 4 inches will take the measurement for the crinoline that will be sewn at the edge of the fabric, and when I turn it in, which will take about 3.5 inches, and then the remaining half an inch sewing allowance will be for the upper part, the waistline. So at the end of the day, 29 plus 4 will give me 33 inches, right? Now let's move over to the first lining, which I said in Nigeria we call ABBA lining. I'm going to be working with 22 inches long, so when it sits, it's not too close to the tip of the ball skirt, or the skirt side. So I divided this into two. 15 inches for the main part plus 7 inches. You can see me joining the tip of a particular material that's originally 7 inches. So when I close in, I'll have about 6.5 inches. So if I add that together, I'll have 22 inches. This already factors in all my sewing allowance, including the 15 inches that I mentioned. So I'm joining this together, or rather I'm closing the tip, so that when I join these pieces together, this thing I'm doing now, I have it in 4 pieces. I have 4 pieces of this fabric. So the main fabric, which is 15 inches long, that first lining, which is 15 inches long, I will divide it into 4 parts, which is where I will gather these strips that you can see me joining on. So let me take it again. I have 15 inches long lining, right? I'm going to now sew this 6.5 inches strip that you can see me doing. So now you can see me joining the strips together, because I want it to be very long so that I can pleat it on the 15 inches long lining. It's as wide, if you want to know the width or how wide this lining is, the lining is 3 yards wide, so that's 36 inches, which makes a yard times 3. Same with the main fabric for the skirt area of our ball, is 36 times 3 inches, 36 times 3 wide, so it's 3 yards. 36 inches makes a yard, times 3 makes up for our ball, the wideness of our ball, or the length of our ball, rather, yeah, the wideness of our ball. Same with the wideness of the lining, it's 3 yards. So now what I'm going to do now is to now pleat that 6.5 inches that we have now. You can see me now pleating this piece of fabric that I've joined together, which will give me 4 pieces together. I'm pleating it on that fabric using the strips I have. So first strip will take the first quarter, the second strip will take the next quarter, which will already have gone through half of the lining. The third strip will take the next quarter till I get to the fourth strip, which will now make up for the entire strip for this lining. I hope this breakdown you understand it. Let me take it again. I'm working with 3 yards of fabric for the main fabric for the ball. I'm working with 3 yards of material for the lining. We call it aba lining in Nigeria. I'm working with 15 inches long for the lining, because by the time I take my sewing allowance downwards and upwards, I'll be left with 14 inches, right? The strip is 7 inches long. I turned it in to close the edges. Some of you might decide to weave it, but I turned it in to close the edges. I have it in 4 parts. So I joined the strip together first before gathering on the lining, before gathering on that part that is 15 inches. So I'm going to repeat the same process for the hard net, right? The hard net too is 3 yards wide. It's 3 yards wide and it has 4 strips as well. I'm going to pleat these strips on the hard net. But the way the hard net is, I made the hard net in 2. You would see it very soon. The hard net is two hard net placed together because I want it to be very thick. Before I now joined the strips together and sewed it directly on the tip of the material. So the hard net is the same measurement, 15 inches long, 3 yards, 7 inches for the strips, and I joined like I'm doing in this video that you're watching now. So let's just finish up the gathering or the pleating, or gathering that we're doing on the skirt, right, or on the lining. The third lining that I mentioned, which is the bridal satin, I won't be doing any gathering on it. I will just be using it to line the material or the skirt area for the ball. That will be what will cover up my finishing. All I'll be doing is to gather it, but I will show you how I do that, or how I intend to do that. So I'm done with the aba lining or the soft lining. What I want to do now is to just close the tip of the bridal satin, which is the final lining that I'll be using. I'm not joining anything on this, I'm just closing this up, and that's what you're watching now. So I'm done closing the tip of the bridal satin, and now I'm sewing my crinoline into the tip of the main fabric for the ball dress. So see me how I'm sewing. I'm sewing a straight line on the material. I made use of Mikado silk. If you want to know the kind of fabric I used to achieve this design, I used the Mikado silk. So I'm done sewing the first line. I turned this over and then I sewed it down following the line or the sewing that I've done. So I'm flattening it out so that it goes through a straight line, and I'm just sewing this. I just turned it over, flattened it out, and followed the line that I'd created when sewing the crinoline initially on the fabric. And I'm just going to do this from start to finish. So I'm done now. I'm now going to just gather my hard nets, right? Remember I said I would double the net. I've doubled the net now. That's the doubling. I'm now going to pick my strip by strip and start pleating on the tip of this hard net. The same thing I did for the lining is what I'll be doing here. So it's just to repeat the same process. That's all. So after pleating this out, I will just sew the tip of the net, so that when I'm placing on the fabric, I know the line to follow, and that's all. So I'll just sew this down, and then that's it. So now let me go to the floor to show you what I've done. So first of all, I've laid down my Mikado silk on the floor, which is the main fabric. I've now laid down the lining, and I want to place the hard net on this, and see how I place the hard net. Remember that what I first placed was the Mikado silk followed by the lining, but when placing the hard net joining is facing inwards. See, it's not facing outwards. It's more like it's kissing the other lining, right? See how it's placed. That's how you place the hard net. So we'll go to the machine now, and then we'll sew the edges. See what I'm going to do. I'm going to sew the edges and trim out the excess from the hard net. I had too much of hard net bopping out from the initial measurement that I have, so I'll just trim out the edges. So see what I did here. I'm going to flip over to the other side. I'm done with the left side. I'll go to the right side now, and now sew this downwards again. So very quickly, look at it. So that's it. I flipped and then sew the other side down too as well. So when I'm done with this, I will just flip it to the other side, so this would be covered, so it won't be this showing. It will be like I already have my sketch ready. I'll just open it up and flip it back. I don't know if you understand what I mean. I'll just turn this in, and then now close the tip, so everything is covered. So look at me. I'm folding, I'm going underneath it, I'm placing this into the machine, and I'm just going to sew all the way. So I have my Mikado silk, I have my hard net, and I have my soft lining covering up this entire ball. So this part is ready. I'll just go to the iron to just iron out and flatten out the net, because it's too it's popping out too much. So I'm just going to flatten this out with my iron, my steam iron, and also flatten out the lining as well, so that it just controls how full this is. So after doing this, I went back to the floor now to pleat. So let's pleat this. So on the floor, I marked on the floor 14 inches plus 2 inches zip allowance, which will give me 16 inches. Remember, the waist measurement I'm working with is 28 inches, so I divided this by 2. So on the floor with my colored chalk, I marked out the area that I'll be working with to pleat this dress. I also use this technique when I taught you how to pleat a palazzo trouser. I'll just drop the link above, so that you can also watch to learn from that technique how you can make your pleating or pleat work easy. So I marked 16 inches in total on the floor. So I'd already notched the center point of this fabric. So the center point is what you can see me handling now. I placed the center point and I started pleating. So I'm pleating by 3.5 inches inwards. I'm going to be using the kissing pleating technique, right? So each of the pleats will be facing each other, rather than everything going in the same direction, either to the left or to the right, flush to the left or to the right. The pleats are going to be kissing each other. So I am doing that now. So using my 3.5 inches measurement, I'm going to be pleating this as a kissing pleating. So watch me as I handle the fabric. So while pleating, I'm also taking my measuring tape to be sure that what I'm pleating is accurate and it's correct. So I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I've moved the center point to fit into the markings that I've done on the floor. I'm also pleating, because at the end of the day I'll be having 32 inches long ball area. The skirt area for the ball will be 32 inches long eventually. So that's what I'm constantly using my measuring tape to measure and be sure that what I'm doing is accurate. I'm also using it to cross check to be sure that the pleats I'm making are 3.5 inches long. So I'm picking it by 3.5 inches to achieve this. So let's turn this over for you to see what this looks like, and voila, here you have it. So let's go to the sewing machine now to join. So before joining this to the upper part of the design of the style, I'm going to sew this down on the sewing machine just so that I can secure my pleats. But now I'm going to move over to the manual machine to join this on that line. So I'm on the manual machine connecting my thread, and I'm going to sew this following that line. Remember, the line that I'd worked on or had sewn down on the upper part of the fabric is what I'm sewing the skirt to, not half measurements. Now I'm following that line, that 1 inch line that's taken away from the half length measurement or from the upper body, and I'm sewing down. So I'm done with this now. I'm now going to sew my bridal satin lining. So I'm going to show you how I'm sewing my bridal satin lining. I've notched the center point of my bridal satin and I've placed it on the center point of the half length measurement. So you can see that it's the wrong side that you can see, because when I flip it back you see the shiny face, so that it matches the upper body of the design. So you're going to pick the tip of this bridal satin and now start pleating across till you get to that part. This time around, you're not sewing on that line, the line that we sewed the first lining and the joining. You're going to be sewing half inch away from that line, which was why I said it was important for you to leave 1 inch sewing allowance on the half body or on the half part of the design. When taking out your allowance after cutting your pattern on the fabric, you were to take out 1 inch away from the fabric. So now I'm making use of that space now, and I'm going to be showing you what this eventually turned out to look like. So we're done now. This is what this looks like. Can you see the pleats, how it has covered up? It has covered up everywhere. So you can see the space between the joining and where we now have our lining sitting pretty. So that's the reason why, because it won't definitely go through your sewing machine if you do not try this out or this method. So what I'm trying to do now is to fix the zip for the ball dress. So we're done now. Let's just work on the sleeves now, the off shoulder sleeves. So the off shoulder sleeves is 10.5 inches wide and the length is 16 inches long. So I'm just going to, what I did was to the fabric, the material, I placed it together, the right side kissing each other. Then I placed the hard net on top of it, and I'm just going to sew the left and sew the right, and that's what I'm doing for the both part of the sleeves. Just follow this process. It's very easy. Place the right side together facing each other, and you place the hard nets on top of it, and you join, or rather close the sides. You don't need to close the tip of it because I'm going to cover it up with applique, so I don't need that. Afterwards, you go to the ironing board, open up like this, and then first of all iron. Use your steam iron to open it up like this, and then you flip it back properly and flatten it out. You can see what I just did now, and there you have it. Your sleeves are ready. So I'm going to place the fabric on the mannequin so that we can see what we have achieved. Going to quickly fix the corset rings and then place this on the mannequin. So voila, here is our design sitting pretty on the mannequin. So now let us install our sleeves, right? I'm going to show you a gradual process as to how you can install the sleeves that you had seen on the thumbnail and beginning of this video. Let me just quickly show you the back. That's the back view without the covering. I haven't ironed this out, so that's why the pleats aren't sitting properly yet. So now let's proceed to fixing the sleeves. Watch how I would pleat this. So that's what I'm doing. You pleat it that way, and then you place it on the fabric and you pin it down with your bobbin pin. So I'm trying to get my bobbin pin, and I'm placing towards just before the cup area in front, and I'm going to secure it with my bobbin pin. I'm going to also repeat the same process at the back. I'm going to show you. So you pleat it. Look at how I will pleat this. First of all, push it in and then use that to cover it up. and I'll use my bobbin pin again just by where the corset rings are located, and then you pleat it. You could also decide to, if you don't want to use hard net to line the sleeves, you could use gum stay, but I felt that the hard net will give me this bouncy effect. It would make it bounce. It won't just stand and be hard. It will make it bounce, which was why I used that. So I'm going to repeat the same process for the other side. My pin is not staying well. I picked up another pin and I just secured it down. So let's repeat the same process for the other side. So after this, I moved to the front to also do the left side, and afterwards I went on to use needle and thread to sew this on the fabric. So I'm going to just speed up this process because it's not difficult. It's just for you to use needle and thread to secure on the fabric. Just note what I'm doing, and this is what you have. So now I'm going to cover this up with my appliques. I'm going to show you the appliques that I would be working with. I'm going to pieces this and cover it up. These are the stones that are also used for application. The stones have holes at the back, so that's where my needle will be passing through when securing this on the fabric. So let me show you the area view of what I'm doing, the other stones that I'll be working with, and let's just sew this down. So first off, I placed the applique on the material and I started working my way gradually to define the pattern that I want, depending on the kind of applique that you're working with. You could use a normal strip applique that already has that straight line, or like me, that I have to now create the pattern that I want. So depending on what you're doing, anything that works for you is fine, as long as it comes out beautifully. So I'm just going to ensure that whatever it is that you're doing, the applique covers this joining for the sleeves that we have, or that you can see now, and it's not showing that something was sewn there. It looks as flawless as possible. I'm just going to speed up this process because it's something you can do depending on kind of applique you're working with. Just ensure that you pin it and cover up all the edges, everything looks neat, before now sewing the applique with needle and thread. So I'll just use my bobbin pin now to cover up these parts. Trust me, this entire process took about I started this process at I think 10 p.m. in the night, Nigerian time, and then I finished this at about 2 o'clock or 3. I think it was 3 o'clock. Yeah, at about 3 o'clock was when I was done. So if I decide to slow this down, we'll use like 2 days to finish. But then let's just look at what the final outlook looks like. And voila, here you have it. Here is your off-shoulder pleated ball dress, sitting pretty on the mannequin. This is so lovely. I haven't ironed this at this point when I filmed this. I took off the sleeves or the hand of the mannequin just so that we can see how it falls and drapes. And I'm going to show you more of this, more footage of what I shot, just so that we can see how this turned out to be. I mean, you can see the stones, you can see the appliques, you can see the joining has been covered up neatly, and you can just see how this is just flowing easily. I mean, this is so sweet. If you have any questions for me, do not forget to leave them down below in the comment section. I'll be ready to take your questions. If you haven't watched my other tutorial videos, I'm going to just be dropping links as I speak, so you can click on the one that best suits you, best suits what you're looking for. If you like what you see, do not forget to share on your various platforms so that people can learn a thing or two about how to cut this off-shoulder pleated ball dress. This is so lovely. I feel like creating this in another color, perhaps red, or another very interesting color, yellow, something bright and popping. But I mean, this is sweet. Thank you for watching. I'm going to just be linking stuff so that you can watch my other videos. I thought to just show you quickly how the inner part looks like, so you can see the hard net, you can see the soft net, and you can see the bridal satin material just sitting pretty inside this ball gown that makes the ball gown look the way it looks and feels very full and voluptuous. Thank you for watching. Till I come your way again, keep creating magic. It's Saint Nightingale. Bye bye.